First up, Cleveland at Houston. Two teams that I think at the start of the season nobody picked to be in the playoffs. So I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be, obviously Houston's exciting with the rookie quarterback, and they've looked good and efficient, and whereas you look at Cleveland, man, and I don't know how they're doing it. They're on their fifth quarterback this year. They've lost. Obviously, they lost Nick Chubb, working with 2, 3, 4 different variations of running backs to go with the different quarterbacks. It's crazy how how they've strung it together, man. But I think the core of that team is that defense, man. Well, I mean, that's a solid unit over there. It seems like everywhere Jim Schwartz goes, the fingerprints and thumbprint that he puts on defenses, man, they are solid, and that's going to be the difference in the game. As much as I'd love to pick Houston and see a rookie quarterback have a successful first season, I just think that defense, man, is going to be too tough for them. So yeah, I'm going to take Cleveland in the opening matchup of the weekend. Second game, Miami at Kansas City. This one, personally, for me, I don't think it's going to be that close. Miami's just on a tailspin right now. Obviously they get blown out by Baltimore, and then they lose the finale at home to Buffalo. They lose the division, and now they're forced to go on the road and play in Kansas City against the defending Super Bowl champs. Yes, the Chiefs have not looked themselves this season. They're a very beatable Chiefs team. And Miami, they have the potential to beat them, but I just think all the injuries that Miami's gone through these last month of the season, losing key guys and key spots, I just think it's going to be too much for them to overcome in that aspect. But also, you've also got a Miami team who is used to playing in the sunshine, the warm weather. They're traveling to Kansas City, where currently they're in the middle of a blizzard there, and by the time kickoff on Saturday night, I think as of right now they're projecting that negative temperatures is the forecast right now. So it's not going to bode well for Miami. I don't think it'll be close. I think Kansas City will have it wrapped up by at least the third quarter, and the champs move on to the next round. Pittsburgh at Buffalo, and you talk about a team on the opposite end of the spectrum, like Miami's on the downward spiral. Well, the Bills are just on the upward trend. Sitting at 6-6 at one point this season. Had a 14% chance to even make the playoffs, and they rattle off 5 wins in a row to end the season, and here they are, the 2 seed, hosting the playoff game, hosting a Pittsburgh team that is no slouch. Another team with a good defense, man. All those AFC North teams, they got really good defenses, and I don't think it's going to be a gimme game, kind of like I think what Vegas is trying to make people pick with that Buffalo 10-point favorites. I get it. It's in Buffalo, and Buffalo's obviously the better team, but this has the potential to be a closer game, I think, than a lot of people are going to initially think. It's going to come down to Josh Allen in the end. It's going to come down to, is he going to play lights out football like he normally does in the playoffs for the most part, or is it going to be the Josh Allen we've seen, like last week in Miami, for example, where, he come out and he has, 3 turnovers by himself, and then at the end has to find a way to win the game, so if Josh, doesn't go sugar high, doesn't go crazy, and protects the football, the Bills should win easy. But if he does start, turning the ball over, which, like I said, Pittsburgh's got a good defense. They very well could force him into making some mistakes, in that regards, and then it could be a very close game all the way to the end. So, all that being said, I'm still going to pick Buffalo here. and they'll be hosting the divisional game. Rams at Detroit. This is probably going to be the game of the weekend for me. Not just the fact that it's Matthew Stafford's return to Detroit, even though that's going to be the biggest storyline all weekend. You're going to have just, I think, a really motivated Rams team. I think, coming off the Super Bowl, the disappointing season they had last year, I think that they're kind of out to prove something, and they've been very good this year. I didn't give them enough credit in the the preseason. Whenever we first did our projection videos earlier in the year, I didn't give the Rams a ton of credit, but I think they'll go into Detroit. I like Detroit. I like the Lions. I like the players they have there. I like Dan Campbell, the coaching staff, but I just think the experience factor alone gives the Rams the edge, and then obviously, Stafford coming back to Detroit after being there for so long, and then obviously Detroit not making the playoffs for so long. It just kind of seems like he would go back there to put the final touch on his Detroit chapter. So I'm going to take the Rams here in this game. Green Bay at Dallas. And again, on paper, it shouldn't be close. However, I just have a sneaky suspicion that this game could be close. Dallas at home this season has been darn near lights out. They've been one of the top home, teams at home, but it's the playoffs, man, and this isn't the 90s anymore, so it's like the Cowboys, the playoffs come around and, they don't show up for whatever reason, but I'm going to believe in them for at least this round. But it could be a sneaky game, man. That Green Bay team is sneaky good. Again, another team that I didn't give anywhere near the credit they deserved, at the beginning of the season. I had them projected as my number one draft pick for this upcoming draft at the beginning of the season. So they definitely proved me wrong by a lot, and it would not surprise me if they go into Dallas and pull off the upset. I think they say they're Green Bay as an organization is 9-1 against Dallas in the last 10 games, if I read that right. But again, I'm going to stick with the experience factor. While Dak doesn't have a ton of winning experience in the postseason, he at least has postseason experience. Obviously he was in the MVP race for a long time this year, so I'm going to stick with Dallas. But again, could be a sneaky game there. Last game of the weekend, Philly at Tampa Bay. Again, this is another one of those games that could be kind of sneaky. Philly's on a bit of a downward trend right now. Ever since that overtime game against Buffalo, they've just seemed like a different football team for whatever reason. They've lost a lot of games that they shouldn't have lost, and it seems like there may be a little bit of a divide between the coaches and players. So I still think they win, but again, Tampa Bay's another sneaky team. They're good, and it's like, at the beginning of the year, everybody picked the Saints to win that division. Some people thought maybe the Panthers, but that didn't happen. But I don't think much people gave Tampa Bay a chance, and they've looked good, and they've played pretty solid. Baker has looked really good, actually. So it would not surprise me, especially with this being a home game for Tampa Bay. Crazier things have happened, especially in the playoffs. So I'll be boring. I'll pick the Eagles, but it would not surprise me in the slightest if Tampa Bay upsets them in the first round there. So divisional round matchups in the AFC side, you would have Baltimore hosting Cleveland based on my projections here. So that game, I think, has the potential to be the game of the playoffs. That obviously they've played each other twice this season, but man, the third time could be it just could be an absolute banger. I don't know how much the bye week's going to help Baltimore, to be honest with you. You know, because they sat their starters week 18, then they get an extra week, so rust is a real thing, and I don't know. I mean, it's tough to pick against Lamar, especially for as good as he's been this year. You know, odds are he'll be the MVP this season. Baltimore as a whole has looked really, really good. But man, that Cleveland defense is just killer. So I'm gonna go with the upset there. I'm gonna say Cleveland goes into Baltimore, knocks out the number 1 seed in the divisional round, and Cleveland goes to the AFC Championship game, which then would lead me to Kansas City at Buffalo, and that's at Buffalo. First time Patrick Mahomes would have to play in Buffalo in front of fans. Last time Kansas City was in Buffalo for a football game, it was during the 2020 pandemic, and nobody was there. So I think that alone is a huge factor. And you know, you hear a lot of opposing teams say, you know, everybody jokes about the Bills Mafia and how we're, you know, knuckleheads and we, you know, jump through tables and blah blah blah. Well, we're also the ones that pack out stadiums in blizzards. So yeah, I think that alone is going to be a factor. And then obviously the Bills have already beat them once this season. That was in Arrowhead. But the Bills are just the better football team this year. And I think they're going to keep their hot streak going, and they will knock out Kansas City. And you will have the Cleveland Browns at the Buffalo Bills for the AFC Championship game. If you would have told me that 10 years ago, everybody would have laughed at you, because both of those teams were bottom of the list in the AFC. So, yes, 2024 playoffs, the Cleveland Browns at the Buffalo Bills for the AFC Championship game. And yes, I will stay and be the homer and pick the Buffalo Bills to win the AFC title, to go to the Super Bowl this season. Josh Allen finally leads the Bills to the Super Bowl. So for the NFC side, you would have Philly at Dallas. Again, another divisional matchup, going for the trifecta there. Earlier in the year, man, I picked Dallas to go to the NFC Championship game. It's in Dallas. Again, I say Philly's been on a bit of a downward spiral, so I'm going to pick Dallas here. I don't feel good picking them, but out of the two teams, I think Dallas pulls it off and they go to the NFC Championship game. So then that would mean that the Rams travel to San Francisco to take on the Niners. And as, you know, good of a story as the Rams have been this year, I mean, the Niners, they're just a buzzsaw, man. They are another team that's just got a killer defense. And Brock Purdy's kind of coming to his own this season and playing pretty good quarterback play. Obviously, he has a ton of help with the weapons around him, but yeah, I'm going to go San Francisco there. So that would mean your NFC Championship game would be the Dallas Cowboys at the San Francisco 49ers. And yeah, give me the San Francisco there. They are a good football team, and that defense, I think, will just give Dak fits. So that means your Super Bowl would be the Buffalo Bills and the San Francisco 49ers. And man, what a banger of a Super Bowl that would be if that's indeed what happens, man. Josh Allen against one of the top, if not the top defense in the league. Should be a good game. You could pick either team, you know, right now, heads or tails, and you'd have a good argument for either one. Me, I'll stay home. I'll be the homer. The Buffalo Bills will get their first Super Bowl in franchise history, and Josh Allen finally gets to have his parade in Buffalo that he's been dreaming about. Buffalo stays hot. They've run the table after starting 6-6. So there's your picks. Buffalo Bills will be your Super Bowl champion. Fingers crossed.